What's up, everybody? It's your favorite bird of prey's favorite nerd. Today we are looking at the Takara Tomy Masterpiece Beast Wars Dinobot. This is on loan to me from Robert D. If you know me, then you know I have no interest in such things. But I know a lot of you guys like to take a look, and this guy is quite pricey. So I figured it'd be worth taking a look at. But in order to do so, we'll start with accessories. So it comes with a base, which is made up of these three components. They're interlocked with this grid pattern. They're all in this almost copper metallic-esque deco, which does look good. You know, and if you want to customize and paint some of the piping along there, it'll probably look even better. And then it comes with this, which has the corresponding teeth for the corresponding spots. Let me just make sure there's no trick there. It doesn't look like it. We sink this in, then you can raise it up here. This is on a hinge, and then this is on a hinge, and then these two teeth grab into these channels, and then you have this piece here, which moves to the side and back and forth. You then have this translucent piece, which is on a hinge basically here. It's actually a swivel, but it operates as such. And in order to apply this, you take Dinobot's chest and open this up. You take this and insert this down, close the chest back around it, and then you can insert this into the translucent piece and get kind of a jumping, running pose. And it works well enough. I mean, you can articulate them up or down, you know, walking. I mean, it's not, the stand's actually pretty smart. It's a pretty good idea. There's just, you know, like there's some just interesting things going on with this guy that we're going to get to. But, you know, there he is. He's coming on down the road. He also comes with one translucent robot adapter, which is for the stand as well. And I'll show you how that sorts out. And that plugs in using these three slots or pegs and holes. And then applying the same sort of tactic, you can plug that in to the casing and have him suspended in air, flying like Superman, or over Superman. Speaking of translucent pieces, you get this, and it has a little groove on one side and then two pegs on the others. This is what happens when you sell 500,000 albums. You get a gold plaque of a gold record. And it's actually the golden disc, The Sounds of the Earth. And it's got tons of little sculpted detail in there, which is cool. And this will actually slide in to this groove, much like I slide into a groove, you know what I'm saying? And then we'll also peg into his hand, and then you can kind of just sort it out until you have it kind of where you want it posed, or what have you, so that he can hold the golden disc in the raptor hands. And of course that works for robot mode as well. But we're not done with translucent pieces yet. We also have this fancy number, which when you open up those two parts, you can put the golden disc on display, because you get excited when you sell 500,000 copies. And if that's how you choose to do it, your adapter piece can be stowed in the side. It comes with three alternate faces. Detailings are the same, but expressions are different and eye colors are different. And all of them have the same feature where their mouth does open on a hinge. He also comes with translucent eye beams. I guess, I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen the show. And they plug in right onto the eyes. They fit nicely with tension, no worries. And he comes with this sword. It folds up, as you can see, and then it extends and extends for the handle. It is like a chrome metallic. I'm not sure if that is supposed to be there or not. I'm guessing it's supposed to be there. But this kind of, some of this chrome looks like it's in bad shape along there, but I would be careful. This feels and looks like the type of chrome that is prone to chipping. Using the same port plug system, he will hold his sword just fine. Now our last accessory is kind of a question as to whether or not it's accessory at all. It plugs into Dinosaur Mode, and I'll show you how that works when we transform him. But it does play a number of different functions. You can split this apart here. Well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. There's pins here that can slide out and around. Let's see if I can't get it. There, I got it. It was very taut. And then you can spin this around 180, and this will plug back into the opposite side of the tail. And you can do that for both sides. Once he's in robot mode, you can flip this piece back on his backpack and you can kind of hang this off of the spikes. Now, if you prefer to use it as a weapon, you can split this open here. This will store the sword that we've already looked at for a heads up in Dinosaur Mode. Just extend that back, plug it back in, open this up all the way on both sides, and then unlock this, and it will now spin. Let's see if I can't show you. And to think, we can also put men on the moon. And that plugs in the same way. Gimmick-wise, you can take the eyebrows up, pull them down, spin them around, much like Masterpiece Grimlock, and now you gotta don't trust your face. And there's a light up feature by pressing this button on the back of his head that lights up his eyes both red and green. I don't have batteries installed in it, but it does do that. I've seen pictures, it looks nice. Now let's talk about the Dino Mode itself. First of all, we have paint. We have the two variations of the brownish purple-esque colors, and then we have some stuff that's going to come through in robot mode and such. We have the metallic orange, metallic gold, and if I can show you better in robot mode, I will. And a metallic gold down here on the toes. The eyes are of course painted, and then the mouth opens, and the inside of the mouth is painted with a metallic red. And the tongue, it looks like it has a metallic fleck coat as well. It may be my eyes playing tricks on me. It may just be a metallic fleck plastic, but either way, it looks good. Claws are painted. The texture and the skin tone is painted. The whole thing is sculpt. Like there's scale, sculpt work throughout. So that's cool. No real issues there. Articulation-wise, we have a hinge back here. You can get to a level where you do break up the sculpt a little bit, but for the most part, it does cover down on the sculpt, and this notch allows us for that part of the hinge, the disc hinge, to slide up in, so that's nice. Using both, you get the head up to there, down to there, and then the swivel, the hinge for the jaw, as we already spoke about. Nothing at the base of the neck, which would have been nice. For the arms, you have a hinge here at the base of the shoulder. You also have the swivel at the base of the shoulder. You have a bicep swivel. That feels okay. It's a little off center, you know, because of the shape of the bicep, but I think that's definitely an acceptable loss. Then you have a hinge here for elbow 1, and then a wrist, and then that's it. It would have also been nice to have had a wrist swivel. There's also a bit of a butterfly hinge as well, or allotment for movement along the raptor shoulders. Moving down, nothing for the abdomen of the Dinosaur Mode. We have the hips, which are on universals. You can get them out to about there. There's this flap that will fold out to allow you to get a little extra movement. You can get out fairly far, I think further than you'll ever need. You have two swivels at the thigh, so that shouldn't be an issue. You have the ratcheted knee. The outward hip movement is ratcheted as well, and it drops down here. Right there is where you can see it drop down. So that it's interesting. It's not the prettiest, it's not the cleanest, but it is efficient in terms of pulling off the articulation. You have the backwards knee here. I don't know, am I a paleontologist? But that works, and it's also ratcheted. Then you have the ankle, which is on a hinge, and then you have a proper rocker, and it works extremely well. Breaks up the sculpt a good bit, but I think the juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak, in that regard. And then you have toe hinges on separate. Each one is individually articulated, as well as the big claw, so you can kind of get your Jurassic Park on. And then ankle tilt up and ankle tilt down. So all of that works quite well. And the other leg is the same, obviously. You have the tail, which does separate, and we'll talk about that. Then you have the hinge here, side to side. You have a hinge here, up and down. You have a double hinge here, up and down. So you can get some pretty good articulation out of the tail, probably more than you would ever need, but it's all engineered in there. The problems that I have with it are I feel like the shoulders bump out a little too forward, where it kind of creates this odd look there at the shoulders, and I'd have to go back and look at what's screen accurate and what isn't. That's interesting. And then, you know, this is kind of a mess. This doesn't really form up cleanly, these side flaps here. So all of that is a little bit of a bummer. The other problem that I have with it is when you use a lot of the articulation, you really start, the sculpt is nice enough. It's got tons of sculpt work, it's got tons of detail, and aside from the pieces that it doesn't actually properly cover or cover down, it's a nice enough sculpt. The problem is like you go to move it around, it ends up kind of falling apart a bit visually. But you know, that's definitely, I don't know. I'm going to say that's subjective. I feel like that's subjective. But there is a lot of cool things about it. There's a lot of sculpt work and attention to detail and interesting engineering. Size comparison wise, there he is next to the MP Grimlock. So, you know, he's of substantial size. So let's get him transformed. This is what I was talking about before, where the tail plugs in. This piece here comes up, and this came out, but it tabs in right there. Disconnect these two sections from these two sections, and I found that the mold kind of starts falling apart on you a bit. And then flip these pieces up. Collapse this on the double hinge until it locks into place on both sides. Now it's a matter of lining everything up. So line up these gold pieces here, and that should help you bring the foot around. And then on the back, plug this piece in, flip the heel up, and this part of the foot to line up with that part of the ankle so that the gold element there lines up. We'll do that again on this side. Line up the gold, line up the foot, plug this into the back of the foot, flip the heel out, flip this part of the foot up. As you can see, the feet are different, so just adjust the flap accordingly. Open up the belly, like we did to get the stand in. Then unpeg the robot legs from the dinosaur hips, I guess you would call it, so that it's all separate. Now we gotta get some panels open. Open up the chest, swing that out. Open up the top of the back, flip that against itself. Open up the top of the head like you were gonna switch the eyes, and then fold this piece in, back down, and then turn the head around. Then you wanna kinda lay this thing out, and this opening will allow the nose of the dinosaur to tuck up in a bit so that it's all like this before we start collapsing. You wanna fold this whole piece around completely so that this slides up into the hole that you created in the back of the dinosaur head. And then this sits around here. Fold the blue pieces so that the gold lines up. And trying to do all of this with two hands is a bit tricky. But this is on a double hinge here. Take the top of this down, and it'll give you just enough clearance to get it underneath. And then this is going into that. And wish me luck. And now we're gonna clean things up a tad. So let's swivel the waist 180. And now he's facing backwards, so that's no good. And as you can see, the legs are a little loose. So we're gonna slide the bottom legs on a double hinge, it feels like, up until they connect. And then swivel just above the knee 180. And if you do it, it pretty much completes this step of the transformation, which is closing the thigh panels. Then sit the head down in the socket and turn the head around 180. Rotate the shoulder around 180 so that it's facing straight up and down. This panel comes down and needs to sit up inside of the flank. And then if you do all this right, it'll collapse inside so that it fits flush inside and flush at the top. I'll try to show you better the second go round. Shoulder 180. Rotate the shoulder pad down. You know where the goal is. The goal is to get it inside of this cavity here. Collapse so that it all sits flush at the top and flush inside. Open up the flap on the tricep, bring out the regular hand. Fold the claws of the dinosaur foot back around to the underside of the dinosaur foot. Extend the dinosaur foot so it's all in a straight line. And you want to spin this piece around. Push it back in to secure it. Fold the dinosaur foot back into the bicep. And then fold the tricep underneath. One more time. Open up the tricep. Bring the real or the robot hand out. Fold the dinosaur claws around to the bottom side of the foot. Straighten the foot. Pull this whole assembly away. Spin it 180. Collapse it back into place. Fold the dinosaur foot inside the bicep. Close the tricep on top of it. You want to fold up this dinosaur claw and hand as best you can. Bring this whole piece around so that the dinosaur hand arm fits inside of the backpack, and then this tab here goes into that slot there. And it's a little challenging to get it all lined up, but if you try and if you pray, there. One more time. Fold up the dinosaur arm, fold this around. Continue to tuck and cover the dinosaur arm as you pull this piece around and clip it in location. Finally, align the shoulders by utilizing that slot that we just were looking at and then manipulating the shoulder pad over top. Same thing on the other side. In, down, and the shoulder pad will adjust accordingly. I'll get them cleaned up. We'll take a look at them. And let's look at the figure. Whew. It's taken a while to get to this point. So we have the metallic fleck blue plastic. I don't believe that's paint, but it could be. And then we have the orange metallic fleck plastic as well. And then we have the silver paint is what I think it all is. I'll also say that I'm having a hard time getting this nose to stick in. I'm almost 100% sure that's something I did wrong. And then this piece has a tendency to come unplugged for me as well. I'm going to chalk that up to my mistakes as well. Just that, you know, there's something out of sorts, maybe just in the arm or something like that. And we'll talk about that in final thoughts. But the head is on a ball peg, sits down into the socket of the neck. You can get decent up, a little bit down, not really anything, honestly. A little bit down, maybe on the sides. And then the side to side, confused dog look, etc. Then you have the gold paint and the silver paint, which look amazing. And the silver paint just sits in the kind of gasket where his head goes. So that's a nice little touch for a very small detail. The orange metallic there looks great. All the dinosaur paint is continuous. And then the eyes are painted there like the white. So the joints here, we have ratcheted hinge here, which gets the arm up to 90 degrees. Straight up. And then you have the ratcheted joint here, which gets the arm 90 degrees straight out. Now, this does look a little silly, but I don't think it looks too terrible where you don't give it credit. You also get the swivel, and the shoulder pad swivels around, so that should be flawless. You have a bicep swivel. You have a double jointed elbow, which does cause the transformation to come undone. Actually, is it single jointed? Yeah, it's single jointed. Huh. But it's a great range either way. A little bit past 90 degrees, a little pat. And then you can get this back up in there. And then you have a wrist swivel and a ball hinge up and down. So that's nice. The fingers are individually articulated at 2 joints. So you can get them straight up here. And they hinge at the base knuckle. And then the 2 thumbs, as it were, are on 2 hinges as well. They're a little tight, but you can get those straight up and down as well as gripping the weapons or whatever you'd like him to do. Same for the other side. The metallic blue looks great, and there's actually 2 shades of it that I think is intentional because it looks like a design choice, and it's nice. I'll close that flap up too. And then the gold looks nice, and all that paint there is clean. Now, we have a waist swivel, and actually where it plugs in to the waist doubles as an ab crunch. It's not the prettiest ab crunch in the world, but it's still an ab crunch, and it deserves credit for such. That piece is coming undone again. All right, we have the metallic orange fleck plastic, it looks like here, and then the gold, and then we have universals for hips. This pad here gets in the way, so you don't get much outward movement, which is a little bit of a bummer. I guess you can open this up and fake it and get a little underneath. I think we should give him credit for that. I've got something wrong there. And then you can get straight forward, straight back. You have a thigh swivel built around the universal, so that's pretty much perfect. And then you have an additional one at the knee, so that should get you everything that you want. Detailings wise, we have the silver, we have the gold, silver and gold. The metallic blue, it's decoed out. There's no doubt about it. You have the knee, which is a single hinge, but gets you a great range past 90 degrees, so no issue there. And I love that they have the metallic blue little accents there. It really adds a lot to it. And then you have the ankles, which we do need to talk about. So when this is in alignment, it has a tendency to be very stable. But as you manipulate the figure, this has a tendency to push down, and once this is pushed down, the figure is not as stable. The ankles should have been ratcheted because they're a little loose and there's a lot of weight up here, including some die-cast joints. There's a lot of weight. Down here, there's just tension, and there's a swivel here, there's a swivel at the knee, there's a hinge back and forth here, and a hinge back and forth here. And it's a lot of weight just due to the bulk of the figure to be supported on this piece, and then this is supposed to keep it kind of all together, and it doesn't necessarily work well. Once you get it set, it'll be fine, but it is frustrating while you're manipulating the figure. But once again, ankle tilt up, ankle tilt down, and a rocker. So the rocker works better than the tilts, but that's the way I would prefer it, so no real complaints there. And then there's the back of the figure. Size comparison wise, I don't really have anything appropriate to display it with or to show you, so I'll just give you two kind of standardized items, which is an MP car and MP10. So he's a big box. Oh God, I just said it, didn't I? He's a big toy and also a pricey one. Let's move on. Final thoughts. Let me talk about the negatives. There should have been ratchets in the ankle, something to secure it a bit better. If you have everything aligned properly, it should stand in balance, but it would be even more secure and even more stable if it had a little bit of extra protection and bearing behind it. It's a very awkward figure, but I have to be fair and say that some of that might be my own personal biases, because I think it's a silly design and I have a hard time manipulating it to a point where I find it to look cool, but that may just be because I don't think it looks cool at all. I am having chrome chipping on the weapon. I'm having some securement issues in the torso. Once again, that could be my mistake. I'm willing to eat that one. But I got a few more objective criticisms left to go. The dinosaur ankles could have benefited from ratchets as well, because that too has a tendency to fall down. To be fair, it comes with a stand that offers a way to display it in both modes, so the stability is no longer as much a criticism of mine would it have been had it not come with a stand. The flaps could cover down much better in dinosaur mode, in my opinion, and the articulation has a tendency to fail the sculpt. More so in dinosaur mode, but even a little bit here at the hips in robot mode. Plenty of positives as well though. The Masterpiece line continues with their focus on articulation, and as you can see, it pulls it off tremendously. The engineering is extremely impressive. It's not quite as fun as a lot of their other offerings, but it is equally as intuitive. All the lines matching up in order to guide you along your way makes it a lot more of a pleasurable experience to get from mode to mode. It's painted to the nines. It comes with a ton of accessories, and it comes with decent hardware throughout, maybe with the exception of the ankles in both modes. The sculpt is on point in terms of what it's supposed to look like. You know how I feel about how it looks, but that doesn't mean that they didn't do a great job in getting it there. Cleans up extremely well in bot mode, not as well in dinosaur mode, but still fairly well. But the price is a little expensive, so it's definitely a recommend for me, but let me tell you why. I'm not sure you're ever going to get an offering of this character that's this good. Again, it's possible. Anything's possible. But if you're a Beast Wars fan, and you're a Dinobot fan within Beast Wars, who even I, who am not a Beast Wars fan, agree is the most interesting character in that series, I don't think you want to miss the opportunity to get a hold of this guy. It's certainly not the best masterpiece ever made, and it's probably the least impressive of the Beast Wars masterpieces, but it's still pretty damn good. It's just a bummer that it has a few more lingering issues and a bit larger of a price tag simultaneously for this line. However, I don't think you'll ever be able to beat this representation, at least not for the next 20 years. So it's a recommend from me, but it would be a weak recommend if I thought somebody else might take a stab at it, or there was a possibility of seeing further renditions down the road. But as it stands, it's a very impressive figure, and I wouldn't let it pass you by if you're a fan of it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.